There are places on Earth that seem to exist outside the flow of time, where reality itself feels unfamiliar. In the Appalachian Mountains, fog swallows the horizon. Dense forests distort space, and colors seem to defy familiar rules. Some areas here resemble the surface of another world, ancient, alien, and older than human memory itself. Venturing deeper into Appalachia is not just exploration, but an entry into danger, where isolation, brutal terrain, and harsh weather push survival to its limits. This is a journey into lands that seem impossible to exist, where Appalachia reveals its strangest face and reality slowly loses its sense of familiarity. Chimney Rock State Park appears as a solitary granite mass rising straight up amid the forested mountains of the eastern United States. The rock pillar stands about 315 feet above the surrounding ground, yet its visual impact far exceeds that number. With no gentle slopes and no transitional layers, the vertical form pulls the eye upward immediately. This rock belongs to an ancient Appalachian geological base more than 500 million years old. Over millions of years of erosion, weaker surrounding rock gradually disappeared, leaving only the hardest granite standing. Chimney Rock was not built upward, but rather remains as what survived an uncompromising process of natural selection by time. The space around the pillar opens abruptly and vertically, creating a clear sense of visual pressure. The rock surface is bare, with very few plants clinging to it, and wind often accelerates as it strikes the upright mass. Daylight shifts the stone's color from pale gray to warm yellow and orange, making the form feel cold at times and sharply intense at others. Since the 19th century, Chimney Rock has been recognized as a distinctive landscape symbol. Access routes are technical and safety-focused, designed not to diminish the dominant form. Chimney Rock State Park impresses not through scale, but through an absolute vertical stance that forces people to pause and recalibrate their senses when confronting it. Seneca Rocks is not a mountain in the conventional sense, but a rare, vertically rising quartzite ridge in the eastern United States. The rock formation resembles a giant blade thrust straight into the sky, creating the impression of stone standing upright rather than a mountain growing upward from the ground, evident at first glance. The quartzite at Seneca Rocks is far harder than the limestone or sandstone, common in the surrounding region. Thanks to this extremely durable structure, the rock mass has not collapsed despite more than 440 million years of erosion. Originally ancient marine sediment, the rock layers were compressed, metamorphosed, and thrust upward, preserving sharp, aggressive edges rarely seen within the Appalachian system. In form, the rock faces rise at angles between 70 and 90 degrees, creating jagged points like serrated teeth. Viewed from below, Seneca Rocks appears as a massive stone wall pressing directly into the field of vision. Light causes the rock surface to shift dramatically in color, from pale gray in the morning to yellow, orange, and deep red as evening approaches. Historically, Seneca Rocks was regarded as a natural fortress due to its tall, narrow, and inaccessible form. Today, it stands as a geological symbol of the East, representing a sharp, austere beauty that compels caution rather than comfort when confronted. Mount Mitchell is the highest peak in the eastern United States, with an elevation of 6,684 feet, rising above all other mountains east of the Mississippi River. Part of the ancient Appalachian system, more than 1 billion years old, the mountain has endured hundreds of millions of years of erosion, yet still retains its dominant position. From the very first gains in elevation, the surrounding space already delivers a distinctly different sensation. That very height creates a rare subalpine ecosystem. Spruce and fir forests exist only at the upper elevations, forming a cold climate island within a warm, temperate region. The forest is dark, dense, and cold-damp, with low light levels and air scented with resin and mist, creating a sense of isolation and primal character rarely found in the eastern United States. In the 19th century, the surveying and confirmation of Mount Mitchell's height caused a major impact within the geographic community. From that point on, the mountain became a scientific symbol, used as the elevation reference point for the entire eastern region. Recognizing its exceptional ecological value, people moved early to protect the area, sparing it from large-scale exploitation. At high elevation, wind and cold fully dominate the space. Each season carries its own character, from refreshing coolness to icy severity. Mount Mitchell does not seek attention, but stands high enough to make people slow down, feel smaller, and learn humility in the face of nature. Great Smoky Mountains National Park was established in 1934 and gradually became the most visited national park in the United States, yet its appeal does not come from noise or spectacle. What holds people here is the pale blue mist that blankets the mountain ranges, drifting slowly like a breath. Sunlight passes through the moisture and organic compounds released by the forest, creating a soft blue-gray hue that makes the mountains seem as if they are quietly moving. Hidden within that veil of mist is a remarkably rich living world. This is one of the most biologically diverse regions in the temperate climate zone, where tens of thousands of species coexist. The forest grows thick and layered, moss covers tree trunks, and light filters down only in thin streaks, creating an atmosphere that feels both vibrant and sacred. The landscape does not show off, but unfolds in depth. Low mountain ranges stack like gentle waves, extending all the way to the horizon. The mist changes shape hour by hour, making the scenery sometimes clear, sometimes fading away, like a painting that is never fixed. In the rush of the modern world, this place reminds people to pause. Without grand structures, nature speaks for itself through endurance, slowness, and a rare sense of peace that everyone who comes here carries with them when they leave. Kinsua Bridge State Park opens a sense of time through a deep canyon nearly 295 feet deep, where water has patiently cut through forested mountains for millions of years. Standing before that space, people feel themselves reduced in scale, as if every thought were compressed by the sheer vertical depth and the heavy silence of the terrain. Within that landscape, humans once erected a colossal steel structure over 200 95 feet high, and more than 1,969 feet long, as a declaration that engineering could surpass nature. Tens of thousands of hand-driven rivets held the steel sections together, carrying with them the faith, pride, and even the naivety of an era that believed every limit could be bent. Yet the bedrock below tolerated compression well and showed no mercy toward torsion. When the load increased to nearly double, while the foundation remained unchanged, the fragile balance was broken. One extreme moment twisted the steel, leaving damage that could not be undone. The feeling at that point is no longer awe, but a shiver at the cost of error. The broken, leaning steel towers have been left as they are, standing still like a confession. Walking through this space, emotion does not arrive all at once, but spreads slowly, overwhelm, unease, then sinking into reflection. This is not merely a place to see, but a place to feel the cold collision between nature, ambition, and time. Grandfather Mountain is not the highest mountain in the eastern United States, but it is considered the harshest. With an elevation of about 5,145 feet, the mountain is exposed to some of the strongest winds in the region, creating a dry, cold, and tense environment that is anything but gentle. From the very first steps, Grandfather Mountain reveals its raw character, a place where nature does not need spectacle to demonstrate its power. The mountain belongs to the ancient Appalachian system, more than 1 billion years old, with an extremely hard structure of granite and gneiss. Unlike many other rounded peaks in the east, Grandfather Mountain appears sharp, fractured, and bare. This terrain gives the landscape a violent intensity, as if it has never been softened by time. Sudden changes in elevation create a nearly isolated biological island. The ecosystem shifts rapidly, with certain plant species existing only within very narrow ranges. Weather is equally unpredictable. Sun, clouds, rain, and fog can follow one another within a single hour, making every approach a different experience. Thanks to long-term protection under private ownership, the mountain avoided large-scale industrial exploitation. The high elevations open into exposed space with few large trees, bare rock, and relentless wind. Grandfather Mountain is not gentle, but stands as a rare symbol of eastern severity, forcing people to respect rather than conquer it. Shenandoah Valley is a tectonic valley stretching between two ancient mountain ranges of the Appalachian system, formed by geological movements hundreds of millions of years ago. Its enclosed, wind-sheltered terrain gives the place a sense of being held, like a peaceful hollow cradled among long-standing mountains. Weathered limestone bedrock has created exceptionally fertile soil, turning the valley into the agricultural backbone of the eastern United States. The climate is milder than surrounding areas thanks to mountains that block cold winds and major storms, allowing stable cultivation across generations. This natural advantage led people to settle early and build long-lasting communities. In United States history, Shenandoah Valley was not only farmland, but also a strategically important corridor. From the 18th century onward, European settlers established villages and sustainable farm systems. The valley became a logistical route where resources and people moved quietly yet decisively, shaping the course of history. Today, the landscape spreads horizontally with long sightlines and a slow rhythm of life. In the early morning, mist settles into the heart of the valley, creating a quiet, hazy atmosphere. Shenandoah Valley does not flaunt its beauty, but represents the spirit of the inland East, resilient, practical, and gentle enough to make people want to stay longer. Blue Ridge Parkway lies in the eastern United States, stretching across the states of Virginia and North Carolina, following the ridgeline of the ancient Appalachian Mountains. This mountain range formed more than 1 billion years ago and has been eroded by time into soft, rounded shapes. That very age creates a gentle feeling. The mountains do not rise abruptly, but extend and curve, guiding the traveler's gaze to drift slowly along each contour. The characteristic blue color of the mountains does not come simply from distance or mist, but from a real biological reaction. Forests release volatile organic compounds that, when they meet sunlight, scatter light and tint the air with a hazy blue tone. Along with elevation differences ranging from about 656 feet to more than 5,105 feet, the climate shifts constantly, giving each stretch of road its own rhythm of breath. The road was built starting in 1935, during the Great Depression in the United States. It does not run straight for speed, but curves for viewing. The design favors low speeds and open sightlines, allowing people time to feel the eastern landscape slowly passing by. When clouds appear at eye level and forests change color into waves of red and orange, the journey becomes an emotional experience. Here, beauty is not found in a destination, but in the feeling of being guided through an ancient and gentle natural world. Shenandoah National Park lies on the ancient Blue Ridge Mountains, part of the Appalachian system that formed more than 1 billion years ago. Time has eroded the mountains here, so they are no longer sharp, but rounded, subdued, and gentle. Standing within this space, people feel as though they are facing a kind of nature that has learned how to exist patiently. Elevation differences, ranging from about 525 feet to more than 3,937 feet, create clearly defined climatic steps. Each level carries a different rhythm of life, nurturing a diverse, temperate ecosystem with more than 1,400 plant species and hundreds of animal species. The multi-layered forest filters light into soft patches, keeping the atmosphere consistently quiet, deep, and emotionally resonant. The park was established in 1935, during the turbulent period of the Great Depression. The construction and preservation of Shenandoah not only protected forests and mountains, but also created jobs for thousands of workers, turning nature into part of a broader process of social healing. As a result, this place carries the memory of both people and stone. Covering an area of about 309 square miles, Shenandoah is considered the green lung of the Northeast. Not dramatic and not showy, the park represents a gentle resilience, leaving everyone who departs with a sense of lightness and quiet reflection. Blue Ridge Mountains are among the oldest mountain ranges on Earth, formed more than 1 billion years ago and stretching across the eastern United States. After immense erosion over time, the mountains are no longer sharp, but rounded and soft, creating a sense of calm and deep age. This is a landscape that does not overwhelm, yet carries a depth that is hard to forget. The most distinctive feature of the Blue Ridge Mountains is the hazy blue color that blankets their slopes. This color does not come from distance, but from volatile, organic compounds released by forests, scattering light within moist air. With high rainfall and humidity, forests grow dense and multi-layered, filtering sunlight into softness and giving the landscape a consistently gentle, deep character. Unlike isolated mountain ranges, the Blue Ridge Mountains have long been closely tied to human life. The mountains do not divide, but guide settlement, agriculture, and daily living. Traditional architecture therefore emphasizes adaptation, durability, simplicity, and harmony with the landscape, rather than display. The Blue Ridge Mountains leave their mark not through spectacle, but through a sense of being enclosed and held. Layered ridges, mist, and slow seasonal change naturally slow people down. Here, nature does not need to prove its power, only to remain present long enough for people to feel at peace. Whitewater Falls holds the position of the tallest waterfall in the eastern United States, with a total vertical drop of about 820 feet. This figure is not merely a record, but defines the entire sensation of standing before it. A massive column of water plunging straight down from above, without slowing, without any pause for the eyes or the ears. Whitewater Falls is classified as a plunge waterfall, where water falls almost vertically rather than sliding across rock steps. The flow strikes directly onto ancient Appalachian bedrock, generating powerful impact forces and a continuous, reverberating sound. The hard, minimally fractured rock base is precisely what allows the tall, steep drop to remain stable over long periods of time. Since the 19th century, the waterfall has been documented in geographic records as a prominent natural landmark. Notably, Whitewater Falls was never harnessed for hydroelectric power, preserving its natural flow and avoiding industrial intervention. As a result, the force of the water retains its original wild character. As the water shatters into mist mid-air, dense vapor surrounds the base of the falls, creating a distinctly cold sensation. Dark rock and white water form a striking visual contrast. Whitewater Falls does not offer gentle beauty. It is powerful, direct, and fierce, compelling people to keep their distance and respect the raw force of water. Spruce Knob is the highest point in West Virginia, reaching an elevation of about 4,362 feet and rising distinctly above most of the surrounding terrain. Yet the feeling this place creates is not the familiar sense of awe associated with high peaks. Instead, Spruce Knob opens out like a broad rocky plateau, where elevation spreads slowly and quietly, allowing people to realize they are standing very high without being forced to look upward. This terrain is the result of an ancient Appalachian geological foundation more than 1 billion years old. Over millions of years of erosion, the mountain lost sharp edges and became subdued, low yet evenly elevated. This long process of smoothing gives Spruce Knob a distinctive sense of age, as if it exists outside the hurried rhythm of the modern world. An unusually cold climate led the area to be identified early as a cold island of the eastern United States. Harsh conditions limited long-term settlement, leaving very few traces of human presence. Low, dense spruce forests grow slowly to withstand cold winds, creating a dark, damp, and quiet environment. Fog frequently lingers over the plateau, causing the landscape to change shape continuously. Bare rocks, covered in moss, display muted tones of gray, green, and deep brown, intensifying the sense of cold and stillness. Spruce Knob is not dramatically tall, but it is isolated and cold enough to make people naturally slow down and feel smaller. Mount Katahdin is the highest mountain in the state of Maine, rising to an elevation of 5,269 feet and standing out sharply above the dense forests and low terrain of the northeastern United States. Unlike the softer mountain ranges to the south, Katahdin appears harsh and untamed, like a solitary mass of stone positioned at the far edge of inhabited land. Geologically, Mount Katahdin is much younger than the ancient cores of the Appalachian system, having formed roughly 400 million years ago. The summit bears clear glacial marks, exposed rock, steep faces, and heavily scoured terrain. At higher elevations, forests disappear, giving way to alpine vegetation where wind and cold dominate completely. In indigenous culture, Katahdin has long been regarded as a sacred mountain, its name carrying the meaning the Great Mountain. Its severity and difficult access helped spare it from large-scale industrial exploitation, preserving a rare state of wilderness in the eastern United States. Built infrastructure is minimal, allowing the mountain itself to remain the absolute center. Standing before Mount Katahdin, people do not find comfort. Rapid weather changes, strong winds, and open exposure create constant tension. Katahdin does not invite relaxation, but represents the final boundary of eastern wilderness, where humans are compelled to approach with humility. Amicalola Falls holds a place as one of the tallest waterfalls in the eastern United States, with a total vertical drop of about 728 feet. Although it does not plunge in a single, uninterrupted fall, the waterfall extends vertically in stages, creating a sense of height that rises gradually rather than crashing down at once. From the very first glance, the movement of the water guides the eye upward along each rock tier. Amicalola Falls is a cascade-type waterfall where water slides across a sequence of rock steps. This structure means the waterfall is not violent in a sudden way, but powerful through rhythm. The water flows continuously over ancient Appalachian rock, hard enough to preserve steep gradients over long periods without collapsing the overall form. Since the 19th century, the falls have been recorded as an important natural landmark. The name Amicalola comes from an indigenous language and is commonly interpreted as thundering waters, directly reflecting the sound that echoes along the slope. Notably, the flow has not been diverted for hydroelectric use, allowing the waterfall to retain its natural condition. Mist constantly surrounds the rock tiers, creating high humidity and a clearly cool sensation. Dark stone contrasted with bright water produces a strong visual tension. Amicalola Falls does not overwhelm through a single dramatic drop, but draws people in through extended motion, compelling them to slow down and fully absorb the power of moving water. Ohiopyle State Park stands out in the eastern United States not because of elevation, but because of the movement of water. The river cuts deeply into ancient Appalachian bedrock, forming a system of rapids and stepped rock formations in continuous succession. From the moment one enters this space, the first sensation is not visual contemplation, but being drawn into the rhythm of the current. The sandstone bedrock is just hard enough to be slowly carved by water over long periods of time. The steep river gradient causes the water not to fall vertically, but to surge rapidly across uneven sections, producing constant white foam. Seasonal fluctuations in water level mean the landscape is never fixed, and each return reveals a different appearance. The name Ohiopyle comes from an indigenous language, commonly interpreted as boiling white water, precisely describing the state of the river. Since the 19th century, the area has been documented as a place of powerful water. The absence of hydroelectric development allows the flow to retain its natural character, free from regulated pacing. Within the park, the forest serves only as a backdrop. All attention is drawn to the water, the continuous sound, the unceasing motion, and the way light changes the color of the foam hour by hour. Ohiopyle State Park does not offer still beauty. It is a symbol of living water in the east, compelling people to move, observe, and adapt to the rhythm of the flow. Swallow Falls State Park lies on the Appalachian Plateau of western Maryland at an elevation of roughly 2,492,690 feet, where rivers have deeply carved the terrain into a narrow, forested space. The park is not large in area, but its landscape is densely concentrated, making the experience of nature immediate, without the need for long travel. Ancient sandstone bedrock, easily fractured, has formed a narrow river channel and sharply defined waterfall steps. As a result, the water does not spread out, but is compressed, flowing fast and with clear force. A cool, humid climate allows the forest to grow thick, creating a dark, enclosed space where light reaches the ground only in small patches. Established in the early 20th century, Swallow Falls State Park reflects Maryland's early conservation mindset. Infrastructure is kept minimal, avoiding heavy intervention in the terrain. The park preserves rare sections of old-growth forest, with tall trees and dense canopies pressing close to the water's edge, emphasizing the direct relationship between forest and falls. Swallow Falls State Park does not allow visitors to remain distant observers. Close proximity, paths running beside the water, and the narrow space force the body to engage with the landscape. The waterfalls are not viewed from afar, but experienced from within their zone of influence. This direct contact gives the park an authentic quality, where nature is not staged, but present immediately and unmistakably. Hickory Nut Falls ranks among the tallest waterfalls in the eastern United States, with a total vertical drop of about 404 feet. What impresses is not only the number, but the way the water plunges straight down from a granite cliff, almost without interruption, creating an immediate and intense visual pressure at first sight. Hickory Nut Falls is a classic plunge waterfall. The water does not slide over rock steps, but falls nearly vertically, striking the base directly below. The ancient granite cliff, hard and minimally fractured, is the key factor that allows this continuous drop face to persist over long periods of time. During the rainy season, the water column becomes thick and forceful. In the dry season, the flow thins, clearly revealing the rock structure behind it. Since the 19th century, the falls have appeared in travel records as a distinctive natural landmark. The absence of hydroelectric exploitation allows the flow to remain in its natural state, free from regulated pacing or volume control. Access structures are limited, prioritizing observation and safety. Standing before Hickory Nut Falls, it is difficult to feel relaxed. Dense mist surrounds the base, sound carries far, and dark rock sets a stark backdrop for the Whitewater, creating sharp visual contrast. The waterfall is not gentle or inviting. It falls straight and strong, compelling people to keep their distance and remain alert before the force of water. Lake Lure sits neatly among the steep mountain slopes of western North Carolina, an artificial lake that nonetheless carries a distinctly natural feeling. Modest in size, at about 112 square miles, the water surface is tightly enclosed by steep terrain, giving the space a sense of depth and stillness, like a secluded water valley held apart from the outside world. The lake was formed in the early 20th century, at a time when landscape-based resort thinking was beginning to take shape. Planning centered on the water itself, limiting intrusive construction and preserving open sightlines. With no heavy industry present, both water quality and the visual character of the lake have remained stable over time. In terms of landscape, movement here is extremely slow. The enclosed topography weakens wind, leaving the lake surface often mirror flat. Ancient Appalachian rock faces reflect directly onto the water, creating strong visual depth without pressure. In the early morning, a light mist appears, softening the scene just enough. Lake Lure does not impress through wilderness or intensity. Its value lies in slowness, in the feeling that time moves more lightly than usual. This is a place where one does not need to do much, only to stay long enough to sense a rare, calm characteristic of the eastern mountain region. Canaan Valley sits at an elevation of nearly 3,000 feet above sea level, making it one of the rare high valleys of the eastern United States. Unlike the familiar low valleys, Canaan Valley is a broad depression set atop a plateau, wide, open, and noticeably colder than the surrounding landscape. This terrain, formed from ancient Appalachian foundations, eroded over hundreds of millions of years. That long process created a flat valley floor where water could accumulate, forming extensive wetlands. Peat and saturated soils appear at an elevation rarely found elsewhere in the east, turning Canaan Valley into an unusual geographic structure. The cold, moist climate led to late settlement. Average temperatures remain several degrees lower than nearby areas, and fog frequently settles across the valley. These conditions helped Canaan Valley avoid large-scale industrial intervention and led to early recognition of its ecological value. As a result, development remains scattered and never feels urban. The landscape does not impress through drama, but through quiet restraint. Meadows, wetlands, and low forests interweave in a slow rhythm. The space is wide yet sparse, its subdued, cool tones naturally lowering voices upon entry. Canaan Valley represents a form of eastern nature that does not seek attention, only enough calm to make people feel smaller within its broad, silent openness. Crabtree Falls does not impress through a single overwhelming plunge, but through the continuous movement of water across multiple rock tiers. A total drop of roughly 197 to 230 feet is divided into successive steps, allowing the flow to remain constantly present in the space, never compressed, never explosive, but extended and steady. The waterfall formed on ancient Appalachian bedrock, where the rock is durable enough to maintain stable stepped structures over long periods of time. The moderate gradient causes the water to slide rather than fall vertically, creating a characteristic cascade form. Thanks to a relatively consistent flow, Crabtree Falls rarely dries out completely and seldom becomes so violent as to be inaccessible. Visually, water and rock exist side by side. Beneath the flow, the terrain structure remains clearly visible, allowing observers to read the shape of the waterfall. A light mist surrounds the area, providing a cool sensation without obscuring the view. The surrounding forest acts as a backdrop, keeping the movement of water at the center. Crabtree Falls does not force emotions to rise. The sound of water is even, the rhythm steady, and the landscape open enough to encourage lingering. Its value lies in continuity, where beauty is not found in a single moment, but in the sense of water always flowing, always present, and slow enough for people to observe each rock tier in turn. Allegheny National Forest covers roughly 810 square miles and is the only national forest in Pennsylvania. Without sharp peaks or dramatic cliffs, it is an eroded Appalachian plateau with average elevations ranging from about 1,480 to 2,300 feet. The continuously rolling terrain creates the sense of a forest that stretches on without a clear endpoint. Ancient sandstone and shale bedrock, hundreds of millions of years old, erodes easily, forming deep valleys and gentle slopes. A humid, temperate climate allows vegetation to grow densely, especially broadleaf forests. Tall, closed canopies filter sunlight down to the forest floor in soft patches, giving the space a consistently subdued and stable character. In the late 19th century, the area was almost entirely logged. When it was established in 1923, large-scale forest recovery began and continues today. Most trees in the forest are now under 120 years old, making Allegheny a representative example of large-scale regenerated forest in the eastern United States. Infrastructure has been developed with restraint, avoiding deep urbanization. Allegheny National Forest does not impress through intensity. Its value lies in the feeling of a real, continuous, and resilient forest. Walking beneath the dense canopy, with only wind, leaves, and water audible, people gradually sense a form of renewed nature, where silence and spatial depth make time seem to slow. Watoga Lake lies deep within the Appalachian Mountains of Tennessee, where steep, heavily dissected terrain prevents the water from opening into a familiar flat expanse. The lake covers about 10 square miles, yet its long, continuously curving shoreline creates a sense of space far larger than the number suggests. Watoga Lake is a man-made reservoir formed in the 20th century by a river dam set into ancient Appalachian bedrock. The hard geology allows the shoreline to remain rugged, with many mountain slopes dropping directly into the water. In some areas, depths exceed 295 feet, giving the lake a dark color and a heavy visual weight, unlike shallow lakes where the bottom is easily seen. Visually, water and mountains are tightly bound together. There are few gentle beaches and few wide openings, and the view is constantly guided along the curves of the shoreline. The water is clear and reflective, mirroring the surrounding terrain without losing its sense of depth and stillness. Human presence is sparse, with no shoreline development dominating the scene. Watoga Lake does not impress through noise or spectacle. Its value lies in the feeling of separation it creates, expansive yet not fully open, beautiful yet restrained. Standing before deep water enclosed by steep slopes, people easily sense their own smallness, and it is precisely this feeling that makes the lake memorable. Deep Creek Lake spreads across the Appalachian Plateau of western Maryland. At an elevation of roughly 2,490 feet above sea level. It is the largest lake in the state, covering about 5.8 square miles, creating a rare inland water surface broad enough to shape the surrounding landscape as a whole. The lake was formed in the 20th century as part of a water control project, submerging portions of the original terrain. Unlike deep enclosed mountain lakes, Deep Creek Lake has a moderate average depth, giving the water a brighter, more approachable appearance. The shoreline curves gently, with many gradual sections, allowing the space to open horizontally rather than concentrating visual weight in depth. Unlike many eastern mountain lakes, the shoreline here developed early with a clear human presence. Homes and infrastructure are distributed along the water's edge, creating a semi-natural landscape where nature and daily life coexist. The lake is not managed as a strictly protected reserve, but is actively used as part of plateau life. Deep Creek Lake does not feel isolated or mysterious. Its value lies in balance, wide enough to feel open, familiar enough to support long-term attachment. The water does not overwhelm or impose pressure, instead acting as a stable center where landscape and human rhythm meet in a comfortable, enduring state. Harper's Ferry sits exactly at the meeting point of two major rivers, tightly wedged between rocky slopes of the Appalachian Mountains. The natural space here does not spread outward, but is compressed into a narrow point where every movement of water, terrain, and human activity is forced through the same structure. That position made Harper's Ferry a site of early settlement as far back as the 18th century. The town once held major industrial and transportation roles and repeatedly became a focal point of military conflict. History here did not unfold across wide ground, but was compressed into a small area, leaving a density of traces and structures far higher than in many other places. The landscape of Harper's Ferry is direct and unavoidant. The mountains do not stand back as a backdrop, but press close against the town. The rivers do not open gently, but form a clear, dividing axis. Sightlines are constantly redirected, opening along the water before abruptly closing in by rock and steep slopes, keeping the space in a constant state of tension. What makes Harper's Ferry memorable is not beauty or grandeur. It is the sensation of being placed at the center of multiple forces at once. Water pools, mountains block, and history weighs heavily on the living space. The town exists as a point of convergence where nothing is excessive and there is no room for prolonged comfort. Luray Caverns lie beneath the ground of Virginia, hidden within the ancient limestone bedrock of the Appalachian Range. The space here does not open horizontally like surface landscapes, but expands in depth and vertical scale through large underground chambers, creating a sensation that is both enclosed and overwhelming. The caverns formed through millions of years of mildly acidic water dissolving limestone. Slow-moving droplets created stalactites, stalagmites, and solid columns, each structure growing at a rate of only a few millimeters per century. Temperatures inside remain stable around 54 to 55 degrees, largely unaffected by surface weather conditions. Luray Caverns were discovered in 1878 and soon became one of the earliest tourist caves in the United States. Walkways and lighting systems were designed to preserve natural forms, allowing access without disrupting underground structures. The interior carries the natural colors of minerals, with whites, grays, yellows, and browns blending together. Luray Caverns create a peculiar sensation, both calm and heavy. The space does not pressure, yet does not allow distraction. Light touching stone slows perception, as if each step requires consideration. Visitors are not drawn along by scenery, but held in place by the awareness of standing within a space that existed long before humans arrived and will remain long after they leave. Helen stands still amid the ancient mountain terrain of the Appalachian Range, where more than 400 million years of time have quietly compressed space. The enclosed, basin-like form separates the town from the familiar world, creating a sense of being surrounded by mountains and forests. People do not enter this place, but rather feel slowly swallowed into a pocket of isolation. Ground rich in metamorphic rock and tightly compressed sediment provides rare stability, allowing people to make long-term bets. When recession closed in, Helen chose to change its entire form. Bavarian architecture was applied uniformly, not for decoration, but as a survival strategy. Every sloped roof, balcony, and facade served a single shared purpose: to endure. From an overall perspective, Helen resembles a European model misplaced on the wrong continent. Low building masses and layered roofs compress space horizontally, creating a sense of intimacy that is deliberate. White, wood brown, and deep red stand out against the green backdrop, making the town appear surreal, like a layer of memory constructed within North American nature. The experience in Helen is not loud, but smoldering. People walk more slowly, look longer, and think more deeply. Emotion does not arrive abruptly, but accumulates into quiet admiration. This place shows that humans can reconstruct identity in order to survive. One architectural decision altered the fate of an entire community. Johnstown lies in western Pennsylvania, about 68 miles from Pittsburgh, tightly wedged inside a narrow valley only a few miles wide. The terrain drops steeply from hills rising more than 492 feet above the valley floor, forcing rainwater to funnel directly toward the center. The sense of space here always carries pressure, as if every movement is being pushed downward. This geographic structure led to the disaster of 1889, when a massive body of water surged through the city. More than 2,200 people were killed in a short time, turning Johnstown into one of the deadliest civilian disasters in United States history. Homes, bridges, and trains were swept away, leaving an urban area nearly erased. After the disaster, Johnstown was rebuilt with a new mindset. Planning focused on resilience rather than beauty. Streets extend along the axis of the valley, creating the feeling that everything rests on a fragile but calculated plane. The landscape became subdued, as if carrying an indelible memory. Tourism here is not aimed at relaxation. People come to Johnstown to confront history and understand how humans live alongside risk. The experience is heavy, but it leaves behind deep reflection on limits and resilience. Pennsylvania stretches across the central portion of the Appalachian Range, where more than 400 million years of geology have compressed space into a complex, folded structure. Mountains, plateaus, and valleys interweave to create elevation differences of hundreds of feet, causing rainwater not to disperse, but to gather quickly and rush downward. The sense when imagining this land is not openness, but depth and weight, as if the ground itself carries memory. A network of more than 50,000 miles of rivers and streams cutting across the state is a direct result of that terrain. Sedimentary and metamorphic bedrock tolerates compression well, stabilizing the surface, yet it is easily eroded over time. This contradictory nature has forced people to learn to build cautiously, to plan for the long term, rather than rely on outward splendor. On this natural foundation, Pennsylvania became one of the earliest industrial centers of the United States. Steel, coal, and railroads shaped society, bringing with them architecture that was thick, heavy, and utilitarian. Brick and stone walls and solid structures reflect a mindset that values durability over decoration. The state also helped shape labor laws and the model of the modern industrial city. Seen from above, Pennsylvania resembles an ancient folded tapestry. Tourism here is unhurried. Visitors come seeking depth, a sense of time slowing down, and a connection between long-standing nature and resilient human history. Beckley lies on the Appalachian Plateau at an average elevation of about 2,395 feet above sea level, higher than most cities in the eastern United States. This position places the city on a distinct plane, where space is not flat, but consistently feels elevated, open, yet fragmented. The plateau terrain is heavily dissected by valleys and erosion cuts, making the surface discontinuous. Sedimentary bedrock rich in coal, formed from hundreds of millions of years of accumulated ancient vegetation, determines both the natural structure and the course of development. The high elevation causes rainwater to drain quickly along slopes, creating a dense but short stream network that is difficult to store naturally. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Beckley grew rapidly due to the boom in coal mining. The city became an administrative and logistical center for West Virginia's coal industry. Urban space formed to serve a clear purpose, tightly bound to a single resource economy. Seen from above, Beckley resembles an urban patch placed on a rough, discontinuous stone tabletop. The dominant experience is the feeling of standing within a small city relative to the vast plateau. Beckley's greatest value lies in the story of human survival, growth, and adaptation as resources gradually declined. Bryson City sits at an average elevation of about 1,706 to 1,837 feet in the Appalachian Mountains, higher than most cities in the eastern United States, but lower than the Plateau. This elevation places the town on a different spatial layer, where the terrain does not support expansion but forces adaptation. The first sensation is not vastness, but restraint. Steep mountain slopes and narrow valleys surround the town, limiting horizontal space while opening depth vertically. Ancient metamorphic bedrock, formed more than 400 million years ago, creates a sense of temporal weight and stability. The ground carries the burden of history, discouraging rapid change. Bryson City developed as a small-scale mountain settlement, closely bound to terrain rather than outward growth. Before shifting toward tourism, the town depended on forest resource extraction and transportation. Low-rise, compact, and durable architecture reflects a long process of adaptation. There are no high-rises or large modern facades, and human scale is consistently kept at the center. Viewed as a whole, Bryson City resembles a small anchor point amid waves of mountains, not spreading outward, but gripping the terrain. The surrounding mountains keep the town in a perpetually lower position, creating a sense of enclosure. Tourism here is not aimed at rapid consumption. Visitors clearly feel the smallness of humans before ancient terrain, and a slow rhythm of life emerges naturally. Franklin sits amid the Appalachian Mountains at an elevation of about 2,033 feet, where the terrain does not allow people to expand freely. This height does not create a sense of rising upward, but keeps the town within an enclosed and subdued space. The surrounding mountains are not merely a backdrop, but physical limits that shape how people live. Steep mountain slopes interwoven with narrow valleys force urban development into a compressed form. Space does not spread outward, but gathers inward, adapting to the existing terrain. Ancient metamorphic bedrock formed more than 400 million years ago carries a clear weight of time. The ground here is thick, hard, and not easily altered by rapid development rhythms. Franklin developed as a small-scale mountain settlement, bound more tightly to terrain than to ambitions of expansion. Historically, the town relied on mineral extraction and mountain agriculture before gradually shifting toward tourism. Low-rise, durable, and utilitarian architecture reflects long-term adaptation. There are no high-rises or large facades, and human scale remains the center of the urban structure. From a distance, Franklin appears as a small point of convergence among layered mountain ranges. Being enclosed keeps the town consistently in a lower position, creating a sense of shelter. The experience here does not come from rapid movement, but from stillness. Visitors easily sense the direct connection between humans and the history of the Earth. Elizabethton is located in northeastern Tennessee, in the transition zone between Valley and Appalachian Mountains, at an elevation of about 1,640 feet. This position creates a space that is less compressed, where the terrain allows the city to expand horizontally rather than being forced along mountain slopes. The overall sensation is not enclosure, but openness and range. Ancient sedimentary and metamorphic bedrock formed hundreds of millions of years ago provides rare stability within a mountainous region. A dense river and stream network supplies abundant surface water, a key factor for large-scale production. The open valley terrain allows buildings to develop without having to avoid geology as strictly as in high mountain towns. Elizabethton was one of Tennessee's early settlements and grew strongly through paper manufacturing and processing industries. Urban space was organized around efficiency, with large factories and clearly planned residential areas. Architecture bears the imprint of 20th century industry, prioritizing function over decoration and reflecting a stable, working society. The city stretches along the valley axis, maintaining a balance between nature and construction. Tourism here does not rely on wilderness, but on settlement history and industrial heritage. Visitors clearly sense the transition between mountains and plains, both in the landscape and in everyday rhythm. Blairsville formed in northern Georgia within the Appalachian Mountains at an elevation of about 1,969 feet, where the terrain does not force people into narrow valleys. Space here opens just enough to let the town breathe and spread horizontally. The initial feeling is not grandeur or intensity, but a rare sense of ease within a mountainous region. Ancient metamorphic bedrock, more than 400 million years old, creates a stable surface that is difficult to deeply alter. Low mountain plateaus and open valleys allow surface water to disperse rather than concentrate. As a result, the landscape does not feel heavy or locked in, but transitions gently between layers of terrain. Blairsville was one of the early settlements of the northern Georgia mountains. The town developed through mountain agriculture and local trade without undergoing strong industrialization. Low-rise, open, and durable architecture reflects a rural mountain society that values practicality over display. The experience in Blairsville does not come from overwhelm, but from a rare state of balance. Tourism here leans towards sensing open mountain space, where people do not have to resist the terrain. Blairsville's value lies in maintaining a stable, light, and sufficient rhythm of life in a mountainous region that is often compressed and fragmented. Dahlonega developed in the low mountain region of northern Georgia, where Appalachian terrain is not steep, but continuously undulates at an elevation of about 1,542 feet. This space does not feel compressed nor fully open, but maintains a stable, intermediate state. The terrain is soft enough for human intervention. yet still preserves clear traces of ancient mountains. Metamorphic bedrock formed more than 400 million years ago carries scattered metallic mineral deposits. Gold does not appear in large, concentrated veins, but in sufficient distribution to attract broad flows of people. This geological structure did not create a single extraction center, but instead led to the formation of an early network of trade and settlement. The gold rush of the early 19th century turned Dahlonega into an important economic center of the southeastern United States. The town grew rapidly, not through modern planning, but through the demands of extraction and exchange. Medium-scale brick and stone architecture reflects the practicality of a resource-based town where function was prioritized over form. Even after mining activity ended, the urban structure was not erased. The present-day space still carries the imprint of a period when gold dictated every decision. The Dahlonega's value lies in its ability to retain economic history within its urban form without reconstruction or display. Fort Payne formed in northeastern Alabama at the boundary between the Appalachian Plateau and the Southern Plains at an elevation of about 886,984 feet. This position does not place the city in a compressed state, nor does it create a complete separation from the mountains. Fort Payne exists in a transitional condition where terrain does not exert pressure but is always present. Ancient sedimentary bedrock creates a gently layered surface that is stable yet prone to erosion along its strata. Gentle terrain allows surface water to disperse rather than concentrate, giving the landscape a slow and even rhythm. Space is not abrupt or folded, but extended, suitable for horizontal expansion. The city grew strongly in the late 19th and early 20th centuries through the textile industry. At its peak, Fort Payne was known as the sock capital of the world, reflecting a scale of production far beyond the image of a small town. Light industrial architecture appeared extensively, with large factories interwoven with residential areas, prioritizing efficiency over form. When industry declined, Fort Payne did not disappear, but slowed down. Urban space retains clear traces of a period of intense production. The value of this place lies in its intermediate role between mountains and plains, between industry and local life, between rapid growth and long-term adjustment. Matewan is not large, not open, and was not created to last long. From its inception, the town was placed into a narrow space where all activity was forced to concentrate. There is no buffer, no margin for adjustment. Everything unfolds within a very small range. A narrow valley in southwestern West Virginia compresses the town into a thin, linear strip. Steep mountains on both sides not only limit construction, but also restrict sightlines and movement. Coal-rich sedimentary bedrock enables extraction, yet simultaneously locks out every other path of development. The terrain does not provide divine stability, but constant pressure. Matewan emerged directly from coal, without an economic or social buffer layer. Labor, management, and conflict appeared almost simultaneously. In the early 20th century, confrontations here became symbols of the tense relationship between workers and owners, far exceeding the scale of a small town. Simple, low-rise architecture reflects a temporary way of life and a lack of alternatives. Today, Matewan's space remains compressed. Visitors do not see a clear revival, but a structure that was never decompressed. Its value lies in showing what happens when resources, terrain, and people are forced to exist within the same narrow limits. Logan exists within a narrow valley of the Appalachian Range in southwestern West Virginia, at an elevation of about 853 feet, where space forces the town to extend along a single axis. The initial sensation is not suffocation, but a clear sense of enclosure, as if everything had been shaped very early on. Logan is not open, yet it is not isolated. Steep mountain slopes press closely on both sides, creating a closed and heavy setting. Coal-rich sedimentary bedrock is layered and stable, strong enough for long-term construction, but offering few options for change. Steep gradients cause surface water to drain quickly, leaving flat ground scarce and giving every meter of land a clear functional value. Space here is neither abundant nor wasted. Logan's history is tied to its role as a center of power within the coal industry in the early 20th century. It functioned as a place of management, coordination, and control rather than spontaneous expansion. Administrative buildings, warehouses, and workers' housing formed densely, low-rise, and utilitarian. Everything was built to operate smoothly, not to impress. Today, Logan carries a sense of slowness, paired with solidity. The town does not attempt to reinvent itself, but continues to use its existing structure. Logan's value lies in quiet resilience, in a town that clearly understands its limits and continues to live well within them. Welch developed in southwestern West Virginia within the core of the Appalachian Range at an elevation of about 1,509 feet. The town was placed at the bottom of a deep valley, where mountain slopes rising 656 to 1,312 feet above the center press tightly on both sides. From the outset, space carried a compressed feeling, with no natural option for expansion. Funnel-shaped terrain forces the city to extend along a single axis. Coal-rich sedimentary bedrock allows dense construction, yet simultaneously locks out any possibility of restructuring. Mountains stand so close that they are constantly within view, ensuring the town never truly escapes the sense of being covered. Welch emerged directly as a coal administration town, without passing through a gradual phase of development. In the early 20th century, it was known as Little New York due to its unusual wealth and exceptionally high building density. Thick, tall, and enclosed architecture reflects a center of power rather than an ordinary residential town. Today, Welch's space still retains a clear sense of weight. Visitors readily sense that compression does not come from scale, but from topography and a history of concentrated power. Welch's value lies in showing how far a town can be compressed when resources, terrain, and authority converge. Pineville exists quietly within a narrow valley in southwestern West Virginia at an elevation of about 1,180 feet. Mountain slopes rising 492 to 984 feet above the center surround the town like a closed ring, leaving Pineville with no sense of outward openness. The space is not harsh, but tight enough to keep people constantly aware that they are living within the mountains. Valley terrain forces the town to develop along a short and compact axis. Coal-rich sedimentary bedrock provides a stable surface, but offers little flexibility for adjustment. Mountains block distant views, keeping all movement within familiar bounds. Pineville is not large, yet everything sits precisely in its place. The town formed to serve administration and governance rather than production or display. Despite having a very small population, Pineville continues to function as a county administrative center. Low-rise, restrained architecture, focused on public service and functional housing, reflects a town that exists out of responsibility rather than scale. The emotion Pineville evokes is not heaviness, but a quiet sense of bearing weight. A very small town, yet one that keeps rhythm for the surrounding region. Pineville's value lies in silent resilience, where everything is just enough to continue existing. Richwood is located in central West Virginia on the elevated slopes of the Appalachian Range, at an elevation of about 2,264 to 2,462 feet. It is one of the highest towns in the state, giving it natural conditions, clearly different from most valley settlements. The surrounding terrain consists of high mountains and continuous slopes, creating clearly defined limits for development. The mountains do not press in directly as in deep valleys, but forests cover nearly the entire surrounding area. Richwood appears as a small town set high within woodland, where buildable space is extremely limited. Ancient sedimentary bedrock, interlayered with coal seams and shale formed hundreds of millions of years ago, creates a stable surface, but one unsuitable for large-scale expansion. Richwood emerged in the late 19th century as a major timber extraction and processing town. This was an exception in West Virginia, where coal usually served as the primary driver. When timber activity declined, the town remained tied to mountain resource use without entering a phase of heavy industry. Low-rise, dispersed architecture reflects a labor life closely connected to the forest. Tourism in Richwood centers on experiencing high-elevation, forested space. Visitors quickly sense a strong separation from lowland rhythms. Richwood's greatest value lies in illustrating a form of Appalachian town not compressed into valleys, but existing at elevation, within forests, under clearly defined natural limits. Cass is located in eastern West Virginia within the Appalachian Mountains at an elevation of about 2,559 to 2,690 feet. It is one of the higher elevation towns in the state, placing Cass outside the common valley-based model. High mountains and dense forests surround the town, clearly defining the limits of buildable space. Forest dominates the landscape almost entirely, while the town itself occupies only a small area. The terrain consists of long slopes and ancient sedimentary bedrock interlayered with metamorphic rock, stable yet difficult to grade. These natural conditions restrict expansion both horizontally and vertically. Spatial development is constrained by terrain rather than by planning. Cass is organized as a single-function town with a small and stable population. Its social structure is inward-oriented, suited to a high mountain environment. Architecture is low-rise and simple, focused on direct functional use. There are no signs of multi-centered growth or complex urban expansion. Cass represents a form of Appalachian town directly shaped by elevation and dense forest. Tourism here centers on observing high mountain space. Casa's value lies in its ability to maintain a stable form within clear natural limits, where terrain determines long-term structure and scale of existence. Raynell was formed as a high mountain town in West Virginia, United States, at an elevation of about 2,395 feet above sea level. The spatial scale is small, with an area just over 1 square mile, yet natural conditions exert a direct influence on urban structure. This elevation makes living conditions and expansion potential clearly different from those of lower regions. Surrounding space consists of mountainous terrain and dense forest, forcing the town to develop within narrow limits. A natural axis running through the center guides the distribution of population and infrastructure. The terrain does not allow horizontal expansion, keeping the built form stable over long periods. Forest cover functions as a fixed natural boundary. The town was organized to serve large-scale timber extraction and processing. Population density once reached high levels relative to its area, reflecting a strong concentration of labor. Architecture prioritizes functional use, remaining low-rise and simple, suited to operational needs rather than diverse formal development. Today, this small urban area is understood through the relationship between space, resources, and topographic limits. Tourism does not aim at expansion, but focuses on existing context. Its value lies in demonstrating how a high mountain town operates over time within a tightly constrained natural framework. Wise developed on the higher portion of the Appalachian Range, at an elevation of about 2,559 feet in southwestern Virginia. This space is not a compressed valley, but a dissected plateau, creating a terrain base different from many other mountain towns. The elevation provides a more open feeling, yet still imposes clear limits on expansion. The surrounding terrain consists of hillsides and broken plateau surfaces, preventing continuous urban growth. Streets curve with the land, rather than following a grid. Coal-rich sedimentary bedrock once served as the primary driver of growth and continues to determine long-term spatial structure. The area once functioned as an administrative and commercial center of the coal region. Unlike many purely extractive towns, Wise became closely tied to higher education, creating a more diverse social structure. Architecture remains practical, with low-rise buildings and clearly functional public structures, showing little emphasis on formal display. Today, Wise is recognized as an Appalachian town supported by two parallel pillars. Tourism is not the main focus, but the plateau setting and academic life create a distinct character. Its value lies in balancing resources and knowledge within a space that is neither overly constrained nor truly expansive. Big Stone Gap did not begin as a town, but as a mountain passage. A large rock gap carved by water erosion over millions of years opened a rare void between Appalachian mountain masses, enough for people to pass through, pause, and eventually settle. The town formed not because land was abundant, but because there was no other way through. All spatial development was forced along that mountain gap. High mountains on both sides closed in tightly, preventing lateral expansion and compelling roads, housing, and structures to stretch along a single axis. The sense of compression is not a visual impression, but a direct consequence of bottleneck-shaped terrain. When coal extractions surged in the late 19th century, this position became a critical transit point. Industry not only brought employment, but also filled the gap with buildings, infrastructure, and daily rhythm. Architecture, therefore, remained practical and low-rise, adapting to narrow space rather than expressing ambitions of expansion. Today, the greatest value of this place lies not in scale or speed of growth, but in a rare urban story. A town not planned on drawings, but carved from stone, where geology determines form, limits, and the fate of living space. Moses H. Cone Memorial Park sits on the Blue Ridge Plateau at an elevation of over 3,600 feet, where gently rolling hills open into a landscape very different from the common image of the eastern mountains. There are no sheer cliffs, or dense forests. Instead, the terrain spreads out in soft, grassy slopes, creating a sense of brightness, openness, and ease from the very first glance. The ancient Appalachian geological base has been heavily eroded over hundreds of millions of years, leaving rounded hills and stable ground. This softened terrain allows grassland to dominate in place of thick forest. As a result, views remain consistently open, with landscape lines flowing smoothly and uninterrupted. In the late 19th century, the land was developed as a resort estate, following European landscape ideals. Grassy hills, small lakes, and curving paths were deliberately arranged to encourage viewing rather than exploitation. The central manor house is large yet restrained, positioned as a visual anchor within the landscape, rather than a symbol of dominance. When the area became a public park, this structure was largely preserved. Moses H. Cone Memorial Park does not impress through wilderness or intensity, but through a rare sense of balance. Everything here is ordered enough to avoid pressure, and quiet enough that emotional rhythms naturally slow without effort. Cumberland lies within a narrow valley of the Appalachian Range, where space is compressed between mountain slopes rising 492 to 984 feet above the center. This terrain gives the city a constant sense of being tightly held, as if no truly open natural escape exists. The funnel-like structure forces rainwater and streams to rush quickly toward the center, creating continuous pressure on the urban space. Ancient, sedimentary and metamorphic bedrock stabilizes the ground for construction, yet the slopes are easily eroded. Cumberland exists in a fragile balance between solidity and vulnerability. In the 18th and 19th centuries, Cumberland became a strategic gateway for westward expansion in the United States. Coal, railroads, and transport turned it into an important industrial center of Maryland. Thick brick and stone architecture with heavy facades reflects a labor-based society that prioritized durability over beauty. Seen as a whole, Cumberland resembles an urban strip tightly wedged between mountains, stretching along the axis of the valley. The surrounding natural landscape keeps the city in a consistently lower position. Tourism here is not recreational, but contemplative, allowing people to clearly feel the smallness of humanity. Burnsville stands at an average elevation of about 2,789 feet in the Appalachian Mountains, higher than most cities in the eastern United States. This elevation creates a clear separation from the surrounding lowlands. Space is dominated from the outset by terrain and slope, not by planning or expansion. High mountain ranges and continuous slopes encircle the area, strongly limiting horizontal development. Ancient metamorphic bedrock formed more than 400 million years ago creates a thick and stable surface. The landscape remains largely original and minimally altered, forcing people to adjust their way of living rather than reshape the land. Burnsville developed as a small-scale mountain settlement, not following an expansive urban model. The town relied on mountain agriculture, local resource extraction, and crafts without dependence on heavy industry. Low-rise, dispersed, and durable architecture reflects steep terrain and limited resources. Every structure maintains human scale as its reference. This small settlement contracts between tall mountain masses. Surrounding peaks keep the town in a consistently lower position, directly dominated by nature. A slow rhythm of life emerges from the terrain without design. Visitors readily sense elevation, slope, and geographic isolation in every step they take. Mountain City appears on the Appalachian Plateau in northeastern Tennessee at an elevation of about 4,265 feet, a level rarely seen in the eastern United States. This height places the town on a different topographic layer, where space is not compressed by valleys but is separated from the surrounding lowlands. The initial sensation is not vastness, but distance. The plateau here is formed from ancient sedimentary and metamorphic bedrock more than 400 million years old, stable yet difficult to level. High and sloping terrain causes surface water to drain quickly, limiting accumulation and keeping the landscape close to its original state. Space is not soft or easily altered, forcing people to adapt rather than reshape it. Mountain City developed as a high-altitude settlement, not following an expansive urban model. Traditional economy relied on mountain agriculture and local resources, without heavy industry. Architecture is low-rise, dispersed, and durable, sufficient for living under terrain and climate conditions harsher than those of lower elevations. Standing within this small town, the clearest feeling is distance. Tourism here does not aim to create quick excitement, but offers an experience of plateau space. Mountain City's value lies in maintaining a rhythm of life adjusted by elevation, slow, distinct, and difficult to replace. Spruce pine sits at an elevation of about 2,089 to 2,953 feet in the Appalachian Mountains, placing the entire area on a geological base distinct from most of the eastern United States. Here, elevation is not meant to create scenery, but to clarify the dominance of geology over living space. Mountains and slopes do not open views, but restrict movement. Spruce pine lies within a special geological belt where metamorphic rock, more than 400 million years old, dominates. Feldspar, quartz, and mica formed under conditions of high pressure and temperature, creating unusually pure mineral structures. Steep terrain causes water to flow quickly, preventing thick soil accumulation and exposing bedrock more clearly than in many other mountain regions. The town did not develop from agriculture or heavy industry, but from mineral extraction. In the 20th century, spruce pine became a rare mining center of North Carolina. Urban space directly serves production and transport. Architecture is low-rise and utilitarian, with no high-rises or large facades, and every structure prioritizes function. The landscape appears bright-toned, sharp, and hard. The experience here does not come from rhythm of life, but from the sensation of standing on ancient rock, participating in a global technological chain. Spruce pine's value lies in its quiet role, where raw material determines refined products. Irwin lies in a narrow valley in northeastern Tennessee, at an elevation of about 1,106 feet, where Appalachian terrain narrows every option for development. Space does not open in multiple directions, but stretches along a single axis. The initial feeling is not grandeur, but clarity. This town has no place to escape its terrain. Steep mountain slopes press closely on both sides, turning the valley into a natural corridor. Ancient sedimentary and metamorphic bedrock is stable enough for construction, yet it does not create broad, flat ground. Steep gradients cause surface water to drain quickly, leaving the sense that the ground is always compressed and guided. Every movement must follow existing paths. Irwin formed and grew through its role as a railroad junction. The town did not revolve around land or underground resources, but around flows of people and goods passing through. Industrial architecture appeared as a natural response. Warehouses, workshops, and housing for labor. There was no room for excess, only what was sufficient to operate. Walking through this elongated town, the lasting feeling is not curiosity, but awareness. Irwin shows what happens when terrain and transportation simultaneously determine the fate of a place. The experience here lies in understanding limits and how people once lived fully within those limits.